Hello. Hopefully this is working. I'm Catherine. Nice to meet everybody. Today we're going to do some wildlife population estimating. Yep. We are going to estimating wildlife populations in American national parks. And it's a worksheet. You can get the worksheet from you can download the worksheet from my Facebook. Okay, so let's start with the first one. Denali National Park, Alaska, spans 7,408 square miles and has an estimated 10 moose per 50 square miles. Estimate the number of moose in the park. For these, what we're going to do is we're going to create a proportion. Now, with a proportion, you want both fractions to be exactly the same. That means if I have moose over square miles, then all of my fractions have to have that. What do we know? We know that there are an estimated 10 moose per 50 square miles. But we want to know how many moose are there for the entire park. Well, the entire park spans 7,408 square miles. To do this, we're actually going to cross multiply. Now let me write out what we're going to do. We're going to take 10 times 7,408 equals 50 times x. Now let's grab our calculator. We're going to take 10 times 7,408, and we end up with 74,080 equals 50 times x, which is 50x. Now what we're going to do is we have to get x by itself. Yep. Whenever we have a number next to a letter, it means to multiply. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing. And I'm going to divide 50 by both sides. Now 50 over 50 cancels, and that's going to give us just an x. 74,080, what's that going to give us? So here we go, 74,080 divided by 50, and we're estimating 1,481.6. We're going to talk about that here in a second. 1,481.6. Now here's the thing. Can you have 0.6 of a moose? No. So we're going to estimate that it is approximately 1,482 moose that are in Denali National Park. Let's try the next one. Yellowstone Lake, Wyoming, covers 136 square miles and has an estimated 200 fish per 1 square mile. Estimate the number of fish. First, we want to say, well, what do we know? What do we have? They're telling us that there's an estimated 200 fish per 1 square mile. And we're going to write that first as our first fraction or our first proportion. We're going to have 200 fish per 1 square mile. Okay, now notice I have fish above mile. So they want us to find 136 square miles is going to give us about how many fish? Well, we don't know the fish. That's what we're trying to find. And the lake is 136 square miles. Okay, guess what? Cross multiply. You got it. We'll take 200 times 136 equals 1 times x. Now, if you're wondering, what exactly is she doing when she means cross multiply? Well, let me show you. What I'm doing is I'm taking and multiplying across, I get that there, the equal sign. Okay, so that's how I get 200 times 136. I am taking 1 times x. So that's how I get both of my sides. Now we're actually going to multiply. I'm going to grab my calculator. I'm going to clear it. 200 times 136 equals 27,200. 27,200, all right, equals 1 times x, which is 1x. Well, 1x is the same thing as just x. 27,200 fish. That is our estimate for Yellowstone Lake in Wyoming. Let's look at the next one. The Rocky Mountain National Park, Colorado, spans 415 miles and has an estimated 150 elk per 10 square miles. Estimate the number of elk in the park. What are they giving us? Well, they're saying there's an estimated 150 elk per 10 square miles. And that's what we're going to use for our first fraction. 150 elk per 10 square miles. Now we're going to keep that same fraction or proportion, elk over miles. The question is, estimate the number of elk in the park. We don't know elk in the park, so that is going to be our x. Now, how many square miles is in the park? They tell us there are 415 square miles. And that's what we're going to have on the bottom, or the denominator. X over 415. Now I'm going to cross multiply. Let me get a different color so everyone can see what I'm doing. I'm going to be taking 150 times 412. Now I'm not using the word elk there. I'm just taking 150 times 412. 150 times 415. I don't know why I kept saying 12, but it's 15. Equals, now I'm going to cross multiply the other side. Okay, that means I'm going to take 10 times x. So we'll have 10 times x. I'm going to get my other color here. Now we're going to take 150 times 415. 150 times 415 equals 62,250. 62,250 equals 10 times x, which is 10x. Now, remember, whenever we have a number next to a letter, it means to multiply. The opposite of multiplying is dividing, and that means I'm going to divide by 10. Now, what's really cool about this one is that both of my numbers end in a 0. That means all I have to do is just cancel my zeros, and it turns out that we have 6,225 equals x. And what's x? X is elk. So we're estimating approximately 6,225 elk in 415 square miles of Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado. All right. You are going to try this one by yourself. Grand Teton National Park, Wyoming, spans 485 square miles and has an estimated 25 moose per 30 square miles. Estimate the number of moose in the park. I'm going to give you a little time to figure out this one, and then, yep, we are going to work it together. Thank you for everyone who is here. I'm trying something different today, so you might not know this, but I'm actually on PowerPoint doing our problems today. And I can't see who is or who is not here. So if you are here during real time, thank you so much. I'm going to try something different next week. I think I'm going to try from Facebook. I'm going to go to YouTube. Don't worry, I'm going to leave the link for you. And if you want this actual worksheet, you need to subscribe. I'm going to put a link below into my group, which is also called Math Hub Club. Let's try this one together. Grand Teton National Park, Wyoming spans 484 square miles and has an estimated 25 moose per 30 square miles. Estimate the number of moose in the park. Now they're telling us there are approximately estimated 25 moose per 30 square miles. And that is going to be our first ratio or fraction. We have 25, I'm going to put M for moose, and 30 SM square miles. What do they want? Well, they want to find the number of moose in the park, and the park is 484 square miles. We don't know the number of moose. That is going to go on the top. That's our X. That's our variable. And Grand Teton National Park is 484 square miles. Now, hopefully this is what you had. If not, it's okay. It's okay. We're still working this together. We are going to cross multiply. All right. We are going to have 25 times 484 equals. All right. Now we are going to cross multiply the other way. And we're going to take 30 times our variable X. And we'll have 30 times our variable X. Now what we need to do is we need to do some multiplication. We are going to take 25. Let me get my calculator here. Clear this out. 25 times 484. And what do we get? We get 12,100. We'll put that here. 12,100 equals 30 times X is 30X. Now here's the deal. Anytime I have a number next to a letter like I have here, that means to multiply. I want to get X by itself. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing. That means I'm going to divide by 30 on both sides. Like the last one, they both end in a 0. That's cool. So I can actually cancel this out. And that's going to give me 1,210 over 3 equals X. From here, all I'd have to do, let's do this one by hand, is I'm going to take 3 divided into 1, 2, 1, 0. 3 goes into 12 4 times because 3 times 4 is 12. We're going to subtract that out. I'm going to bring down the next number, which is a 1. 3 doesn't go into 1, so I'm going to have a 0 here. I'm going to bring down the next number, which is 0. 3 goes into 10 3 times, because 3 times 3 is 9. And I have a 1. I'm going to add a decimal. I'm going to bring down my next number, which is 10. And I always forget to bring this up. Here we go, is 3. And what's going to happen is going to be a repeating 3. So 403.33333. And that's what we're going to get for X. Now, let's think about this for a second. Can we have 0.3 of a moose? No, we can't have 0.3. And so we always round up. Doesn't matter. We're not following the rounding rules. Remember, if we were following the rounding rules, we wouldn't round. But since we're talking about an animal, we are. So we are going to approximate 404 moose in Grand Teton National Park. All right, let's look at 5. Lake Tahoe, California and Nevada covers 191 square miles and has an estimated 500 fish per 2 square miles. Estimate the number of fish in the lake. First thing we want to do is we want to figure out, well, what do we know? Well, we know there's an estimated 500 fish per 2 square miles. Let's write that. And I'm going to write 500. I'm going to put an F for fish over 2, and SM, we're going to call that square miles. Okay. Equals, Now they're asking us to find or estimate the number of fish. So I don't know what the number of fish is. I'm going to put an X there. You know, you could put an F there for fish if you like. Totally cool. And Lake Tahoe covers 191 square miles. I'm going to write that right underneath my X. 91 square miles. Now you notice I have square miles in the denominator here. I have square miles in the denominator here. I'm looking for fish in the numerator here, and I'm also looking for fish in the numerator there. Now we're going to cross multiply. I'm going to take 500 times 191. Let's write that. 500 times 191, equals, and now we're going to take 2 times x. All right, we're cross multiplying. 2 times x. We'll have 2 and an x. Okay, so let's do some figuring. We're going to take 500 times 191. Clear this. 500 times 191. And that gives us 95,500. 95,500. Make sure that's a comma. All right. Equals 2 times x, which is 2x. Once again, I'm looking over here and I want to get my variable by itself. I want to get that letter or the x by itself. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. And that means I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides of my equal sign. Let's do that. I'm going to divide by 2. Divide by 2. Oh my gosh, look at that. I forgot my 5. It's okay. It's a nice thing about math. We can fix things. Put my 5 in there. I'm sure at home you're like, Catherine, you forgot the 5. All right, there we go. Now we're still going to divide by 2. Divide by 2 equals 47,750. 47,750. 750 equals x. And so what's the question? Estimate the number of fish in the lake. We estimate that there are 47,750 fish in Lake Tahoe. On to the very last one we're going to be working today. Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, covers 3,468 square miles and has an estimate 40 elk per 100 square miles. Estimate the number of elk in the park. Now I'm going to have you try this one by yourself. I'm going to give you a minute or so, and then don't worry, we're going to work it together. I am looking for a topic for next week. If you have an idea, put it in. I'm also recording this, so it will show up on YouTube. If you're watching this and have an idea, put that in chat under the video. All right, how about we look at this one together? Let's read it again. Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, cover 3,468 square miles and has an estimated 40 elk per 100 miles. Estimate the number of elk in the park. Well, what we know is there's an estimated 40 elk per 100 square miles, and that's going to be our first ratio or our first fraction. 40 elk over 100 square miles. And that's going to equal, now they tell us that Yellowstone National Park covers 3,468 square miles, We need to find the number of elk or estimate the number of elk. We don't know. We have to estimate. And the national park covers 3,468 square miles. Now, some of you are thinking to yourself, well, you know what? I can reduce this piece. This piece I can make a little bit easier. And that's true if you want to. Sure, you could call this 4/10, and then you could reduce it even farther as 2/5. Totally legal. You can do that. We'll end up with the same answer. Let's just continue with cross multiplying. We're going to have 40 times 3,468. 40 times 3,468. And that's going to equal, and now I'm going to take 100 times x, and that's this right here, 100 times x. All right. 40 times 3,468 turns out to be 138,720. Let's just double check I have that correct. Clear this out. 40 times 3,468. Okay, perfect. Equals 100 times x is 100x. We're going to divide by 100. We want to get x by itself. What we could do is cancel this out, right? And then divide by 10. Let's do that. We're going to take 10. We could use the calculator too, but this doesn't hurt, right? Long division doesn't hurt. Oh, that is an 8. 72. All right. 10 goes into 13 one time. Subtract. 3. I'm going to bring down my 8. 10 goes into 38 3 times because 10 times 3 is 30. 30, subtract. I'm going to bring down my 7. How many 10s are in 87? That would be 8 because 8 times 10 is 80. Subtract. We're going to have 7. I'm going to bring down all the way down my 2. How many 10s are in 72? That will be 7. Minus 70. Oh my gosh, we have 2. I'm going to make my decimal. That is 0. Whoop, okay. And then how many 10s are in 20? That would be 2. Now we're getting 1,387.2. We can't take part of an elk. So we're just always going to round up. 1,388. Yep, that is our guesstimate at how many elk are in Yellowstone National Park. And we did it! How cool is that? Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Remember, this is live, so if suddenly I went blah, 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 sorry about that. I hope everybody has a great day, and I'll see you next Tuesday.